Okay, let me try that again. Good morning. Recording this short little maybe 30-minute practice for us this morning because it's so dangerously cold outside that everything is canceled. So stay warm, but we're going to start moving. Start with the big opening for our upper backs and then start moving right away. So if you have a yoga block, you can take the opening for your upper back where you lay the block on its long skinny end. Lean back so that the block is about at the bottom of your shoulder blades, right in between. Hold your head and breathe your way down the block. If you don't have a block, you can roll up a blanket or a big beach towel, create like a bolster out of it, and lay with that underneath your upper back. It will take about 6 or 8 or 10 breaths to extend over the block or the blanket roll, whichever you use. So take your time. And once you've made your way extending, you can do it again, or you can just rest with the pressure in your upper back, either supporting the weight of your head in your hands like this, or if you're over the blanket roll, letting your head just rest on the ground. Open your elbows if you wish, just to get a different sensation. Be mindful of your front ribs. Their tendency is going to be to pop up like this to accommodate more space. But what we're trying to do is relax into pressure, not just compensate and offer up space that our ribs can give us. We want to press softly into space that our upper back can give us. Nice. And when you are finished, you can slowly release, roll yourself back up, roll off to one side or the other, and crawl onto your hands and your knees. Cat-cow pose. About 5 or 6 breaths. And in one of those breaths, when you extend your spine nice and long, you can tuck your toes underneath and take that long spine right up into downward facing dog. Get upside down for this first time today, perhaps. Walk out your heels, give your head a shake, and just use this posture to stretch into the sidelines of your body. And same like when you were extending over the blanket roll or over the yoga block, there's a softness in the space behind your heart, around your heart, but still a little bit of a hug with your front ribs. Their tendency is going to be, again, to just flare and give you a feeling of more space in your upper chest. But we'll use the front ribs as a landmark for strengthen the front side of our core while we soften around our hearts. Nice. Releasing back down onto your knees and take a twist for your upper spine. Slide a hand behind the other wrist, come down onto the outside of the shoulder. Switching to the second side, just taking 3, maybe 4 breaths on each side. You can let your hips find a little sway. Nice. Releasing back into cat-cow pose, and then again downward facing dog. So just a few breaths. Using the length that an inhale provides to pause, tuck your toes, and stretch back into that downward facing dog. And then we're going to take the right leg up into the air. Stretch your body long, and then step that foot forward in between your hands for a lunge. A low lunge with your back knee relaxing down. Take the first few breaths with your hands on the ground. The transition we're going to make is to take the right hand onto the right thigh and then sweep the left hand up into the air. Take a couple breaths there. And then take it into a little bit of a side bend. So I'm going to lean over to the right, trying to keep this right knee stacked directly above the ankle. So everything that's stabilizing this pose, everything that's connected to the ground, stays the same no matter what I'm doing with my upper body. Nice. And I'll release and we'll take the second side. So stepping back to downward facing dog. Take the left leg up into the air. Stretch for a bit and then step that foot up in between the hands. Relax the right knee down and get just settled in first with the hands on the ground. No need to get fancy or do anything extra. Don't add anything to it just yet. Left hand on the thigh, right hand sweeps up. Couple breaths. And then just slowly breathing your way into a side bend. Mindful that this left knee stays above the ankle rather than splaying out to the side. Nice, and then releasing again into downward facing dog. We'll take our little variation on vinyasa, lowering down into child's pose. Stretching back. Using an inhale to glide forward and then into upward facing dog with the knees on the ground, just letting the pelvis sink, crown of the head press up. Now I might take my attention back to my front ribs, a little bit of strength on the front of my core as I exhale my way back to all fours and downward facing dog. And then setting up for pyramid pose. I'll take my right foot a few inches forward, 5 or 6 inches forward, left foot up in between my hands. And setting up here, pushing my left sitting bone back, keeping the front of my right hip facing the ground. Nice, and just like we often do, because the pelvis so likes to follow the direction of the upper spine, we'll revolve a triangle here. Right hand's going to come onto the top of my left foot, and my left hand either onto my sacrum or up into the air. Looking at my left foot on the ground, my right hand, just keep my gaze at the ground, helps my balance. And then I'm going to switch it up, take the triangle the other direction without moving my pelvis, just my upper spine. Hand can either come onto the sacrum or right up into the air. Nice, and then releasing, downward facing dog. Take those on the second side. Take a couple breaths, walk out your heels. The left foot will step 5 or 6 inches up, right foot in between the hands, and just taking a bit of time to set up my pelvis here. Smoothing out any scrunched up skin on the back of my neck, trying to keep my whole cervical spine in extension. Revolving a triangle first, left hand onto the top of my foot, right hand onto my sacrum or up into the air. And then switching, letting my rib cage and my upper spine revolve without my pelvis moving. Hand either onto my sacrum or right up into the air. And then releasing, downward facing dog. And we'll cycle through that vinyasa again. Relaxing into child's pose, stretching back. Use an inhale to glide forward. Pausing for a breath or two. And waiting for an exhale to hug the front side of the core and release back. All fours, downward facing dog. Nice. Right foot's going to come forward for a lunge again. I'll lift it up into the air first. Step it forward. Relax my left knee down. I'm right back to where I left off in this lunge. Right hand on the thigh, left hand sweeping up. I'm going to twist now. I'm going to take that left elbow on an exhale down to the outside of my right thigh. Nice. And I'm going to keep the right hand either on my thigh or plant my palms together. Press up and down to find the twist. Gaze can stay on the ground or it can move to the side, but I'm going to tuck the back toes. Start pushing the energy through the top of my head, and then layer on energy pushing through my heel at the same time. After 2 or 3 or 4 breaths, unwinding, releasing, taking the second side. Left leg sweeps up into the air, step it forward, relax the right knee down. Nice. Take your time setting up, stretching into the side body. Using an exhale to twist, elbow comes down to the outside of the thigh. Plant the palms together. You can always keep your hand on your thigh if that kind of support feels better. This is just another way of supporting, pressing up and pressing down. And then if I want to press through my heel, I gotta press through the top of my head. So keep those energies as even as I can. And then releasing, downward facing dog. Nice. And again, the little vinyasa. Take a different style if you like. Knees can be on the ground or off the ground. Back of the hips stay wide though, so the whole spine can lengthen. If you're on your knees, exhale to all fours. If you're on the tops of your feet, exhale rolling over your toes, downward facing dog. Nice. Right leg up into the air again. Step it forward between your hands. Keep the back knee off the ground this time and roll your heel in and down nice and slow. Then looking at your right foot, sweep your left hand forward. Stretch. Stretch a little further, both through your foot and your hand. And then keep that right knee just above your ankle and windmill up into warrior 2. Looking out over your right fingertips. Just take a few breaths. Trying to feel equal support under both your feet. And then release the same way you came in. Windmill back down. Come onto the ball of your left foot. Step that right one back and try the other side. Inhale. Left foot rises. Exhale, step it forward. Roll the right heel in and down. Stretch your right arm forward. Couple breaths to find the length that you need to set this up. Left knee stays right above the ankle. Windmill your way up. A few breaths. And then windmill your way back down again. Nice. Onto the ball of the right foot. Step that left one back. And one more time. Cycle through a vinyasa. Any style. Nice. Once you find your way back into downward facing dog, we'll relax onto our knees. Hip width distance apart. Stand up on your knees. We're going to do camel pose. And we can either move into camel and hold it, or we can flow in and out of camel pose. So you're welcome to flow with your arms, rising up and down with your knees, or just any variation of that. Or you can lean back, maybe feeling the support that you've got on the front side of your core. Find your heels, and then pressing your pelvis forward and your sternum floating up. And whatever way you find your way into camel pose, we'll either flow 6 or 8 breaths, find our way in and hold for 6 or 8 breaths. Enjoying a nice big opening across the front line of the body. Still, the pelvis is strong the whole time, pushing forward and wide across the back of the hips, just like in cobra pose or our upward facing variations. Your heart lifts you out of this pose. Back onto your hands and knees where we'll twist the upper spine again, threading the needle. Pick a hand, slide it behind the other wrist. 3 breaths. Switching sides nice and fluidly. Wonderful. And then releasing, downward facing dog. Right leg rises into the air, pigeon pose. We'll bring the knee through and forward. Relaxing, and take this pose in 2 parts. So first part, you can keep your hands on the ground, bend your back knee. You can keep just your right hand on the ground, bending that knee so you can reach back with your left hand and find your foot. Nothing about the pelvis changes. If there's space to reach back with both hands, you can lean your body forward. That'll give you space to draw your heel in closer. Then also room, likely, to reach back with your right hand, interlace your fingers, then use your leg to pick your upper body back up. Another breath or 2. In the first variation, working with that space, a little bit of a back bend, strengthening for the spine and opening for that left quadricep. And then we'll gently release and just let these pigeons collapse. 3 or 4 more breaths here on the ground. Releasing through downward facing dog, pressing up. I like to move through this slow motion, feeling the strength of that back leg and the strength of the core that it takes to pick up the whole weight of the front leg. Step it back, and then take the left leg up into the air, sweep it through, pigeon, and then again, just organizing, feeling where the pelvis is in space, and then how you want to use your hands. Both of them on the ground. See what it feels like to bend that back knee. If you're curious, just the left hand stays, right hand reaches back, arm on the same side as the back leg. Nice, so either, again, organizing to reach back with both hands. If you keep that hand in front on the ground, you're pressing down into the ground with it. It's also working in service to the length in your spine. Trying to sink down equally into both sides of your hips. Just take a couple more breaths. Nice. Pelvis, just like in our upward facing dog, pelvis is sinking down and forward as much as the top of the head can press up. And again, this arm, both hands really, however you're using them, are assisting you in that. So release nice and gentle and let your pigeon collapse. And so we'll release. And releasing from here, we're just gonna press up enough so we can roll onto the outside of this left hip and sweep the right leg all the way around on top for Gomukhasana. I'm gonna just turn and face you. Now, so the right leg on top, left knee on bottom. We're trying to stack the knees. And if organizing your thighs cross this much, if it pops your knees way up or your legs end up like this, take a block, take a pillow, take a folded blanket, put it underneath your hips to bring them up closer to the level of your knees. Nice. And you can use your hands on the top of your leg. You can use your hands on the ground. You can take the variation with your arms where you extend your right arm up, sweep your left arm around, and find the bind behind you. Let me turn and give you a visual of that. Releasing, and we'll take the left leg on top. Crossing your thighs, tucking something underneath your hips if you need, and using your hands however you like. You can take the bind with your arms, or you can use your hands on your top leg or on the ground. If you're taking the bind with your arms, sometimes helps to push, give a little pressure with the back of your head into the inside of that top arm. Also to remember what your front ribs are doing and how they really love to give you some extra compensatory space. Hug them in. Just another breath. Relax the hips. Let the top of the head float up. If the arms are bound, release them. If you're leaning forward, rise up. Unravel your legs. And we'll take the hips the other direction. Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet together. You can hold your ankles or your feet. Sit tall. Plug the sitting bones into the ground. But plug them in a way that allows you to rock a little bit forward on them. Nice. So depending on where your feet are, how close they are to your hips, you might be leaning forward like your navel is going to end up in the arches of your feet. A little wider, and it might feel as though your heart could extend that far forward, a little wider even still, and it might feel like you could one day just let your face relax down into the arches of your feet. Take your time in this one because you might want to try 3 different options with your feet. It's going to give you access to different areas in and around your hips. It's a good 6 or 8 breaths here. Just counting your breath, dropping into your hips, letting your sitting bones have a little bit of action pressing back behind you. Sometimes helpful to imagine someone's just, if you're sitting on a blanket or a mat, that someone's just trying to pull it out from behind you. What that might do to your sitting bones. Coming up nice and slow. And we're going to take a little twist, lying down. And you choose, really, if you'd like to keep the bottom leg straight or if you'd like to bend the bottom leg. You can cross your thighs or you can keep a leg straight, just bend one knee and bring it across your body. Opposite arm, either way, your opposite arm can extend out and find a little range of movement. Back of the hand sliding across the ground, shoulder blade heavy. If your bottom leg is straight, you're finding some good extension there. You might sort of even harken back to the lunging twist, with the back leg extended and the knee off the ground, how we tried to extend not just through the heel but also through the top of the head. The whole central axis of your body, and here what you've added a leg to that length, is all extending. Just take your time to release and try the second side. And then releasing. So, you're on your own for your Shavasana, but do take a Shavasana. And the only other thing I wanted to say was that we just moved through a little practice where we moved our bodies in all directions. So we had time to feel rooted into the ground, but also uplifted from it. We moved into the sides of our bodies, we moved into twists, and we folded forwards in our pyramid poses, and we bent over backwards in our camel pose. So moving, however you organize your own personal practice, moving your body in all of those directions is important. It's going to develop a balanced practice for you. So remembering that, and enjoy your Shavasana. And hopefully I'll see you in person the next time. Namaste.